What is psychology? Psychology is the scientific study of mind and behavior. It is a multifaceted discipline that encompasses various subfields of study, such as human development, sports, health, clinical, social behavior, and cognitive processes. Psychologists seek to understand and explain how people think, feel, and act. This involves observing, interpreting, and recording how people relate to one another and to their environments. The ultimate goal is to improve individual and societal well-being by applying scientific knowledge. The field utilizes empirical methods to gather data and test hypotheses, ensuring that conclusions are based on evidence rather than intuition. It examines both observable actions and internal mental states that cannot be directly seen. Understanding these complex interactions allows psychologists to address a wide range of human experiences, from everyday decision-making to severe psychological disorders. This scientific approach distinguishes psychology from philosophical inquiries into the mind. Historical roots of psychology. The origins of psychology can be traced back to ancient philosophy, particularly in Greece, where thinkers like Plato and Aristotle pondered the nature of the mind and soul. These early philosophical inquiries laid the groundwork for later scientific investigations into human consciousness and behavior. However, psychology as a distinct scientific discipline emerged much later, separating itself from philosophy and physiology. Wilhelm Wundt is widely regarded as the father of modern psychology, establishing the first psychology laboratory in Leipzig, Germany, in 1879. This event marked the formal beginning of psychology as an experimental science. Wundt's structuralism focused on breaking down mental processes into their most basic components through introspection. Soon after, other schools of thought, like functionalism, pioneered by William James, emerged, emphasizing the purpose and function of the mind in adapting to the environment. Major perspectives in psychology. Psychology is characterized by several major perspectives, each offering a unique lens through which to understand human behavior. The psychodynamic perspective, originated by Sigmund Freud, emphasizes the role of unconscious drives and early childhood experiences in shaping personality. It suggests that many psychological problems stem from unresolved unconscious conflicts, often explored through therapy. Behaviorism, championed by B.F. Skinner and John B. Watson, focuses exclusively on observable behavior and how it is learned through conditioning. This perspective largely disregards internal mental states, asserting that all behavior is a response to environmental stimuli. The cognitive perspective, in contrast, examines mental processes such as memory, perception, problem-solving, and language, viewing the mind as an information processor. Humanistic psychology, with figures like Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, emphasizes individual growth, self-actualization, and free will, focusing on positive aspects of human nature. Finally, the biological perspective explores the physiological basis of behavior, including brain structures, neurotransmitters, and genetics. Research methods in psychology. Psychological research relies on systematic methods to gather and analyze data, ensuring objectivity and reliability. Experimental research involves manipulating one variable, independent variable, to observe its effect on another, dependent variable, while controlling for other factors. This method allows researchers to establish cause and effect relationships, often conducted in controlled laboratory settings. Participants are typically randomly assigned to experimental and control groups to minimize bias. Correlational research examines the relationships between two or more variables without manipulating them. It helps identify patterns and predictions, but cannot establish causation. Observational studies involve watching and recording behavior in natural settings, providing rich descriptive data. Case studies offer in-depth analysis of a single individual or group, valuable for rare phenomena, but limited in generalizability. Surveys and questionnaires gather data from large samples, providing insights into attitudes and opinions, though they can be subject to self-report biases. Each method has strengths and limitations, and researchers often combine approaches for a more comprehensive understanding. Brain structure and function. The human brain is an incredibly complex organ, serving as the command center for the nervous system. It is responsible for all thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and bodily functions. Key structures include the cerebrum, which handles higher-level functions like language and memory, and the cerebellum, crucial for coordination and balance. The brainstem controls vital involuntary actions, such as breathing and heart rate. Different lobes of the cerebrum specialize in various functions. The frontal lobe is involved in planning, decision-making, and personality. The parietal lobe processes sensory information like touch and spatial awareness. The temporal lobe is essential for hearing, memory, and emotion, while the occipital lobe is dedicated to visual processing. Understanding these specialized regions helps us comprehend how brain damage can lead to specific deficits and how different areas work together to produce complex behaviors. Neurotransmitters and hormones. Neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that transmit signals across a synapse from one neuron to another, playing a crucial role in brain function and behavior. Examples include dopamine, involved in reward and motivation, serotonin, affecting mood and sleep, and acetylcholine, essential for muscle contraction and memory. Imbalances in these chemicals are often linked to various psychological disorders, such as depression or Parkinson's disease. Hormones are chemical messengers produced by endocrine glands and transported through the bloodstream, influencing a wide range of physiological and psychological processes. Unlike neurotransmitters, hormones act over longer distances and durations. Cortisol, the stress hormone, affects metabolism and immune response, while oxytocin is associated with bonding and social behavior. The intricate interplay between neurotransmitters and hormones profoundly impacts mood, cognition, and overall well-being, highlighting the biological underpinnings of mental states. Genetics and behavior. Behavioral genetics explores the influence of genetic factors on individual differences in behavior. Researchers use methods like twin studies and adoption studies to disentangle the contributions of heredity and environment. Identical twins who share 100% of their genes are compared to fraternal twins who share about 50% to estimate genetic influence on traits like intelligence or personality. Adoption studies compare adopted children to both their biological and adoptive parents. While genetics provide a predisposition for certain traits or behaviors, environmental factors always play a crucial role in their expression. This interaction is often described as the nature versus nurture debate, though modern psychology recognizes that both are inextricably linked. For example, a genetic predisposition to a mental illness may only manifest under specific environmental stresses. Understanding this complex interplay is vital for developing targeted interventions and personalized treatments, moving beyond simplistic explanations of behavior. Sensation and perception. Sensation is the process by which our sensory organs and nervous system receive and represent stimulus energies from our environment. It involves the detection of physical stimuli, such as light, sound, touch, taste, and smell, by specialized sensory receptors. These raw sensory data are then transmitted to the brain for further processing. Each sense has a specific threshold for detection, known as the absolute threshold, and a just noticeable difference for detecting changes in stimuli. Perception is the process of organizing and interpreting sensory information, enabling us to recognize meaningful objects and events. It involves actively constructing our understanding of the world based on sensory input, prior experiences, and expectations. For example, while sensation detects lines and colors, perception interprets them as a recognizable face. Gestalt principles of perception, such as proximity, similarity, and closure, describe how we naturally group sensory information into coherent wholes. Perception is highly subjective and can be influenced by attention, motivation, and cultural background, demonstrating that what we see is not always a direct reflection of reality. Learning theories. Learning is a relatively permanent change in behavior or knowledge resulting from experience. Classical conditioning, pioneered by Ivan Pavlov, involves associating an involuntary response with a new stimulus. For example, a dog learns to salivate at the sound of a bell if the bell is repeatedly paired with food. This type of learning highlights the power of association in shaping reflexive behaviors. Operant conditioning, developed by B.F. Skinner, focuses on how voluntary behaviors are strengthened or weakened by their consequences. Reinforcement increases the likelihood of a behavior, while punishment decreases it. Positive reinforcement involves adding a desirable stimulus, and negative reinforcement involves removing an undesirable one. Observational learning, proposed by Albert Bandura, emphasizes learning by watching and imitating others. This theory highlights the importance of social models and cognitive processes in acquiring new behaviors, demonstrating that learning can occur without direct experience or reinforcement. Memory processes. Memory is the faculty of the brain by which data or information is encoded, stored, and retrieved when needed. The Atkinson-Shiffrin model proposes 3 stages of memory: sensory memory, short-term memory, STM, and long-term memory, LTM. Sensory memory briefly holds incoming sensory information, while STM temporarily stores and processes a limited amount of information. STM has a small capacity and short duration, typically lasting about 20 to 30 seconds without rehearsal. Long-term memory has an essentially unlimited capacity and duration, storing information for extended periods. It is further divided into explicit, declarative memory, which includes episodic, personal experiences, and semantic, facts and knowledge memory, and implicit, non-declarative memory, which encompasses procedural memory, skills and habits, and classical conditioning. The process of encoding transforms sensory information into a form that can be stored, while retrieval involves accessing stored information. Factors like attention, rehearsal, and emotional significance significantly influence how effectively information is encoded and retrieved, highlighting the dynamic nature of memory. Thinking and problem solving. Thinking involves manipulating information mentally, forming concepts, engaging in reasoning, and making decisions. Concepts are mental categories used to group objects, events, or ideas that share similar characteristics, simplifying our understanding of the world. Reasoning is the process of drawing conclusions from evidence, which can be deductive, from general to specific, or inductive, from specific to general. These cognitive processes are fundamental to how we interact with and make sense of our environment. Problem solving is a cognitive process that involves finding a way to overcome obstacles and achieve a desired goal. Strategies include trial and error, algorithms, step-by-step procedures guaranteeing a solution, and heuristics, mental shortcuts that provide a quick but not always accurate solution. Obstacles to problem solving can include mental sets, where we persist in using solutions that worked in the past, and functional fixedness, the inability to see an object being used for anything other than its intended purpose. Creativity. the ability to produce novel and valuable ideas often plays a crucial role in overcoming these obstacles and finding innovative solutions. Language and development. Language is a complex system of communication that allows humans to express thoughts, feelings, and ideas through spoken, written, or signed words. It is fundamental to human cognition and social interaction. Key components of language include phonemes, basic sound units, morphemes, basic units of meaning, syntax, rules for combining words, and semantics, meaning of words and sentences. The ability to acquire and use language is a uniquely human trait, developing rapidly during early childhood. Language development follows a predictable pattern, beginning with babbling in infancy, progressing to single words around age 1, and then rapidly expanding into two-word phrases and more complex sentences. Theories of language acquisition include B.F. Skinner's behaviorist view, which suggests language is learned through reinforcement and imitation, and Noam Chomsky's nativist perspective, which posits an innate language acquisition device, LAD, in the brain. Interactionist theories emphasize the interplay between innate predispositions and environmental influences. The critical period hypothesis suggests there's an optimal time for language acquisition, typically early in life, after which it becomes much more difficult. Child development stages. Child development refers to the biological, psychological, and emotional changes that occur in human beings between birth and the end of adolescence. It is a continuous process with a predictable sequence, yet with individual variations. Key developmental stages include infancy, birth to 1 year, toddlerhood, 1 to 3 years, preschool, 3 to 5 years, and school age, 6 to 12 years. Each stage is characterized by distinct physical, cognitive, and socio-emotional milestones. During infancy, babies develop basic motor skills, attachment bonds, and begin to babble. Toddlers gain independence, develop language rapidly, and engage in parallel play. Preschoolers refine motor skills, develop imagination, and begin cooperative play. School-age children develop logical thinking, social skills, and a sense of industry. Understanding these stages and their associated challenges is crucial for parents, educators, and psychologists to support healthy development and identify potential developmental delays. Adolescent development. Adolescence, typically spanning from puberty to early adulthood, roughly ages 12 to 18, is a period of significant physical, cognitive, and socio-emotional transformation. Puberty brings rapid physical changes and the development of secondary sexual characteristics. Cognitively, adolescents develop abstract thinking, hypothetical reasoning, and a more sophisticated understanding of complex concepts, moving beyond concrete thought. This period marks a crucial transition from childhood dependence to adult independence. Socio-emotionally, adolescents grapple with identity formation, seeking to define who they are and their place in the world. Peer relationships become increasingly central, influencing behavior and self-esteem. There is often a push for greater autonomy from parents, sometimes leading to conflict. Risk-taking behavior can also increase due to the still developing prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for impulse control and judgment. Understanding these unique challenges is essential for supporting adolescents through this critical developmental phase. Adulthood and aging. Adulthood is typically divided into early adulthood, 20s to 30s, middle adulthood, 40s to 60s, and late adulthood, 60s and beyond. Early adulthood often involves establishing careers, forming intimate relationships, and starting families. Middle adulthood is characterized by career consolidation, raising children, and often caring for aging parents. This period can also bring a re-evaluation of life goals and achievements. Late adulthood involves significant life transitions such as retirement, potential health challenges, and coping with loss. While some cognitive abilities, like processing speed, may decline, others, like accumulated knowledge and wisdom, often remain stable or even improve. Socio-emotionally, older adults often maintain strong social networks and find new sources of meaning and purpose. Successful aging involves adapting to these changes, maintaining physical and mental health, and engaging in meaningful activities. Developmental psychology emphasizes that development is a lifelong process, with growth and change occurring at every stage. Nature versus nurture debate. The nature versus nurture debate is one of the oldest and most enduring questions in psychology. Nature refers to the influence of inherited characteristics, genetics, and biological predispositions on an individual's development and behavior. This includes genetic traits, temperament, and innate abilities. Proponents of the nature side argue that our biological makeup largely determines who we are, from personality to intelligence. Nurture refers to the influence of environmental factors, including upbringing, experiences, learning, culture, and social interactions. This encompasses everything from parental influence and education to peer groups and societal norms. While historically viewed as opposing forces, modern psychology largely recognizes that nature and nurture interact in complex ways to shape an individual. It is not an either-or scenario, but rather a dynamic interplay where genes provide a blueprint and environment shapes how that blueprint is expressed. This interactionist perspective is crucial for understanding the full spectrum of human development. Social influence and conformity. Social influence refers to the ways in which individuals change their behavior to meet the demands of a social environment. It encompasses various phenomena, including conformity, obedience, and persuasion. Conformity is the tendency for individuals to align their attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors with those of a group or social norm. This can occur due to informational social influence, where individuals conform because they believe others have accurate information, or normative social influence, where they conform to gain approval or avoid rejection. Classic experiments, such as Solomon Asch's conformity studies, demonstrated how individuals would often give incorrect answers to simple perceptual tasks to align with a majority group. Factors influencing conformity include group size, unanimity, and public versus private responses. While conformity can lead to positive outcomes like social cohesion, it can also suppress individual thought and lead to groupthink, where a desire for harmony results in irrational or dysfunctional decision-making. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for analyzing group behavior and promoting independent thought. Attitudes and persuasion. Attitudes are learned predispositions to respond to an object, person, or idea in a consistently favorable or unfavorable way. They consist of three components: cognitive, beliefs and thoughts; affective, emotions and feelings; and behavioral, tendency to act. Attitudes are formed through various processes, including direct experience, observational learning, and classical and operant conditioning. They play a significant role in guiding our decisions and interactions. Persuasion is the process of changing an attitude or behavior through communication. The elaboration likelihood model, ELM, proposes two routes to persuasion: the central route and the peripheral route. The central route involves careful consideration of the message content, leading to more lasting attitude change, while the peripheral route relies on superficial cues, such as source attractiveness or emotional appeals, resulting in less enduring change. Factors influencing persuasion include the source's credibility, the message's quality, and the audience's characteristics. Understanding these mechanisms is vital in fields like marketing, public health, and political campaigning. Group dynamics. Group dynamics refers to the system of behaviors and psychological processes occurring within a social group or between social groups. Groups can be formal or informal, and their dynamics influence individual behavior, decision-making, and productivity. Key aspects include group cohesion, the bonds linking members of a social group, and group norms, the unwritten rules that govern behavior within the group. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for effective teamwork and leadership. Phenomena like social loafing, where individuals exert less effort when working in a group than when working alone, and social facilitation, where performance improves in the presence of others, illustrate the complex effects of group membership. Group polarization describes the tendency for groups to make decisions that are more extreme than the initial inclinations of their members. Groupthink, a mode of thinking that occurs when the desire for harmony in a decision-making group overrides a realistic appraisal of alternatives, can lead to disastrous outcomes. Effective group leadership and diverse perspectives are essential to mitigate negative group dynamics and foster positive collaboration. Prejudice and discrimination. Prejudice is a preconceived negative judgment or attitude toward a group and its individual members, often based on stereotypes. Stereotypes are oversimplified and often inaccurate beliefs about the characteristics of a group. Prejudice can be explicit, consciously held, or implicit, unconsciously held, and is often rooted in social learning, cognitive biases, and emotional factors. It can manifest as hostility, fear, or contempt towards outgroups. Discrimination is the behavioral component of prejudice, involving unfair treatment of individuals based on their membership in a particular group. This can range from subtle microaggressions to overt acts of exclusion, violence, or systemic oppression. Causes of prejudice and discrimination are complex, including social identity theory, favoring one's own group, realistic group conflict theory, competition for resources, and scapegoating, blaming an outgroup for societal problems. Reducing prejudice and discrimination requires promoting intergroup contact, fostering empathy, challenging stereotypes, and implementing anti-discriminatory policies. Understanding these concepts is crucial for building more inclusive and equitable societies. Theories of personality. Personality refers to the characteristic patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that make a person unique. Various theories attempt to explain its development and structure. Psychodynamic theories, notably Freud's, emphasize unconscious psychological processes and early childhood experiences. Freud proposed that personality is shaped by the id, ego, and superego, and that unresolved conflicts in psychosexual stages can lead to fixations. Humanistic theories, such as those by Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, focus on individual growth, self-actualization, and the inherent goodness of people. They emphasize free will and the drive to achieve one's full potential. Trait theories, like the Big Five model, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, describe personality in terms of stable characteristics or dispositions. Social cognitive theories, advanced by Albert Bandura, highlight the interaction between personal factors, behavior, and environmental influences. Each theory offers valuable insights into the complex nature of human personality, contributing to a holistic understanding. Personality assessment. Personality assessment involves various methods used to measure and describe an individual's personality characteristics. Self-report inventories, such as the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, MMPI, or the Big Five Inventory, are common. These involve questionnaires where individuals respond to statements about themselves, providing a standardized measure of traits. While efficient, they can be subject to response biases, such as social desirability. Projective tests, like the Rorschach inkblot test or the thematic apperception test, TAT, present ambiguous stimuli to individuals, who then project their unconscious thoughts and feelings onto them. These tests are thought to reveal deeper, less conscious aspects of personality, but are often criticized for their subjectivity and lack of standardized scoring. Behavioral assessments involve observing and recording an individual's behavior in specific situations. Clinical interviews and observations also provide valuable qualitative data. A comprehensive assessment often combines multiple methods to gain a more complete and accurate picture of an individual's personality. Intelligence and creativity. Intelligence is generally defined as the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. Various theories attempt to capture its multifaceted nature. Charles Spearman proposed a G factor, general intelligence, underlying all specific mental abilities, while Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences suggests there are distinct forms of intelligence, such as linguistic, logical mathematical, spatial, musical, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and naturalistic. These different perspectives highlight the diverse ways individuals can demonstrate intellectual prowess. Creativity is the ability to produce novel and valuable ideas or solutions. It is often associated with divergent thinking, the capacity to generate many different ideas from a single starting point, in contrast to convergent thinking, which focuses on finding the single best solution. While intelligence and creativity are related, they are not identical. A highly intelligent person may not be highly creative, and vice versa. Factors influencing creativity include expertise, imaginative thinking skills, a venturesome personality, intrinsic motivation, and a creative environment. Nurturing both intelligence and creativity is crucial for individual and societal progress. Psychological disorders. Overview. Psychological disorders, also known as mental disorders, are conditions characterized by significant disturbances in thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that cause distress or impairment in daily functioning. They are typically diagnosed using criteria outlined in diagnostic manuals like the DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It is important to note that mental illness is not a sign of weakness, but rather a complex health condition influenced by genetic, biological, psychological, and environmental factors. Common categories of psychological disorders include anxiety disorders, e.g. generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, phobias; mood disorders, e.g. major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and other psychotic disorders; and personality disorders. Each category encompasses a range of specific conditions with distinct symptoms and diagnostic criteria. Understanding the symptoms and underlying causes of these disorders is the first step towards effective treatment and support, reducing stigma and promoting mental well-being. Clinical psychology principles. Clinical psychology is a branch of psychology concerned with the assessment, diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of mental disorders. Clinical psychologists typically hold doctoral degrees and are trained in various therapeutic approaches. Their work involves conducting psychological assessments, developing individualized treatment plans, and providing psychotherapy to individuals, families, and groups. The ultimate goal is to alleviate psychological distress and promote mental health and well-being. Key therapeutic approaches include cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which focuses on identifying and changing maladaptive thought patterns and behaviors; psychodynamic therapy, which explores unconscious conflicts and past experiences; and humanistic therapy, which emphasizes personal growth and self-acceptance. Evidence-based practice is central to clinical psychology, integrating the best available research with clinical expertise and patient values. Ethical considerations, such as confidentiality and informed consent, are paramount in all clinical interactions, ensuring patient safety and trust. Health and organizational psychology. Health psychology examines the psychological, behavioral, and cultural factors that contribute to physical health and illness. It focuses on understanding how psychological factors influence health behaviors, for example, diet, exercise, smoking, stress and coping mechanisms, and the experience of illness. Health psychologists work to promote healthy lifestyles, prevent illness, and improve the well-being of individuals facing chronic conditions. This field emphasizes the mind-body connection in maintaining overall health. Organizational psychology, also known as industrial organizational (IO) psychology, applies psychological principles and research methods to the workplace. It focuses on issues such as employee motivation, job satisfaction, leadership, team effectiveness, and organizational development. IO psychologists work to improve productivity, optimize human potential, and create healthier work environments. Both health and organizational psychology demonstrate the broad applicability of psychological science in addressing real-world challenges, contributing to individual flourishing and societal betterment.